Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. It's been a hot summer in 2051. Adriana Smith celebrated her 35th birthday yesterday, and so she is sad today. This event has started the merry-go-round inside her again, one end of which rests on the question, what is wrong with me? And the other end of which rests on the question, what is wrong with the world? Or maybe there is something wrong with the world. Everyone around her is living their own fascinating lives, and only she exists as an appendix to them. After going through all the usual issues for self-madness, she found the culprit again. It's her mole on her collarbone that always catches her eye. Adriana had felt since childhood that this mole was ruining her appearance. She quickly gathered herself and once again decided to go to the nearest clinic to have this mole removed. She had gone before with this problem, but she didn't make it. She broke her heel and had to go home. The second attempt to reach the clinic was also unsuccessful. When she was walking past a multi-story building, someone poured some yellow liquid and Adriana found herself right under the stream. She had to go back again. The third time she was sprayed by a passing car. And the fourth time on the way she decided to feed a stray dog, and it bit Adriana. As a result, instead of a beautician and a clinic, she ended up in toxicology and received a rabies vaccination. For the fifth time, she has to make it. No matter what happens, she makes it. But she ran into a closed door and a sign. That's where we moved. The new address was on the other side of town. You'd have to set aside a whole day to get there. Adriana returned home to spend the rest of the day with her phone in her hand and a movie on her computer. This plan proved to be more successful. In half an hour, she was already lying on the couch, turned on the first movie she saw, and it showed first the trailer and then switched to commercials. Genetics Clinic. It's the truth. We opened, and now we're changing people's lives. Get your DNA decoded and find out your origins. Expose imposters. Or maybe you are from a royal family, and by a misunderstanding of the human factor fell among ordinary people with ordinary fates. We will help you to understand this question, said a pleasant female voice. Adriana Machine wrote down the number of pure truth. Half an hour later, some people in sterile clothes took biological samples from her. They thanked her for her treatment and left. Adriana was upset by the incoming call. For the 100th time, she promises herself not to answer unscheduled calls. But for the 100th time, she breaks that rule. Hello, sweetie. The voice of Betty's older sister sounded cheerfully in the receiver. I asked you not to call me little, she replied. But if you were big, you'd have your own family and your own life. Since such infantile came out, so you are small, award the truth and do not resent the fate. You are its creator. By the way, sit down with Michael tonight. Ethan and I have big plans tonight. His friend's daughter was born. We're going out to celebrate at a restaurant. We'll be late, Michael. It'll be boring alone tonight, my sister said. No, I can't, Adriana said, and paused. Something's wrong. Are you sick? Sister asked. I'm fine, but I have plans for tonight. Adriana lied. What are your plans, if it's no secret? Have you been asked out on a date? I hope you're wrong. Only when you're overwhelmed by the emotion of your new muse. Remember, you're already 35, 36 and ahead of 40, 40. Adriana, wake up, wake up. Sister's out. I'll make sure that if he runs away, I'll catch up with him and lie across the road. Are you all out with the advice? Asked Adriana. Oh, come on. I get it. You're just blabbing about a date. You're just lazy and you're a loner. Soon you're gonna be a loner. And that's only natural, because a single woman of your age is a nobody in society. Okay, come on. While I have time to stop by the boutique for a new dress, and then to the salon for makeup, said the sister and ended the conversation. And Adriana knows what to do at times like this. She got up from the couch and went to the refrigerator. Thankfully, food has not yet learned to lecture her and give her advice to make a difference in her life. She decided to cook frozen meat in some exotic way tonight. But then she was distracted again by the phone call. Adriana, why didn't you reply to my good morning message this morning? Are you sick? It was a girl. Second sister, I wished you good morning and thank you for your attention. What did you want? Adriana asked. I just talked to Mom. She says Dad's not feeling well again. He's been thrashing around all night. His blood pressure's skyrocketing. Mom didn't sleep well. She says she has a headache. I'm worried about both of them. You should go and see them today, Christina said. I talked to them too. They're fine. People get sick. Sometimes they don't get enough sleep. That's normal too, replied Adriana. To be honest, sister, I'm scared of your cordiality lately, she said. Don't you know that at their age they need more care and attention? And who will give it if not our beloved daughters? They have invested so much strength and energy in us all their lives. And where's our gratitude? They put everything into you. And when I needed them, they were already old. Why can't you visit them yourself, if you're so worried? Adriana asked a counter question for the first time. Sister Christina first got angry in response and then took offense. When she finally hung up the phone, Adriana felt an incredible lightness in her soul. She felt her stinginess with her emotions for once, and it made her feel even happier. In an instant, Adriana even forgave both of her sisters who had made a habit of calling her loser lately, for any refusal of their requests. Hello, I ordered a DNA transcript from you. I was called and told it was ready, Adriana said. At the front desk of the Pure Truth Clinic. Give me your number, the polite girl asked. 1350089 and the letters F. Yes, you are all set. Mrs. Holmes. The girl answered. You're not confused. I have a different last name, said Adriana, taking a piece of paper with incomprehensible numbers and letters. I'm sorry, everything can be. I just see the result of the decryption. According to this result, your genes have similarity with the genes of the dynasty. Holmes. A match. 98.4% is already a match. Our method does not allow for errors. The girl smiled. Adriana flew out of the clinic, went to the nearest coffee shop, sat down at a table, and read the transcript. The girl's words were confirmed. The waiter brought her coffee and tiramisu. Excuse me, young man. Do you know who Holmes is? Adriana asked in a casual manner. Well, who doesn't? He seems to be the richest man in the country for the 15th year in a row, answered the waiter. Adriana typed the name Holmes into the search engine. It seemed to her that the internet was created to tell everyone else about the life and activities of the Holmes family. There were 3 brothers in the family. Each of them took up the development of their own business from an early age. And after a few years, these 3 are on everyone's lips. And the reputation of all of them is brilliant. Politics have never meddled ordinary people, did not rob in scandals, not noticed. Taxes did not hide in generosity, did not refuse anyone. They didn't go to success alone, pulled others along by some ideals of peace. Adriana, who only yesterday was waving off a trip to her parents. Now she's rushing to them, so she doesn't have to wait for them at the closed door. She decided to call beforehand. Mom, hi. I need to talk to you. Daddy's home, she asked. He's home for now, but he's going out. Is there something you want us to be happy about? Did you find a husband? Mom was happy. Mommy tell Daddy not to go anywhere, said Adriana. She hung up the phone and hurried to the cab, which was already waiting for her in the yard. Either Mom did not tell, or Dad seemed uninterested in surprises, if they do not concern a fantastic future son-in-law. Anyway, Dad went off on his own. Mom also left as if on purpose, and Adriana was upset, but she wasn't going to back down. It was a good 4 o'clock, and it was as if her parents had gone on a round-the-world trip on foot. When Adriana had already slept on a bench near the house, she decided to call and find out we were just going home. But then the Petrovs called. Their daughter Katerina brought to the house of the groom to introduce her parents. How can you resist, when such a joy in the family of friends? We went to see them. You'd better come too. Katya and her fiancé are still here. See if the young man has friends for you too, said the mother. Do you need to change your worldview and put someone other than a man at its center? Adriana blurted out. What did you say I need to change? Mother interjected. She sincerely did not understand what she was talking about. I'm talking about you being obsessed. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to say. All right, you two enjoy getting to know each other. I'm going to the movie theater. I'll be there. And when you get there, don't forget to call me at home. And bring some goodies. From the house the groom visited. Maybe it will come to us, Adriana said, and hung up the phone. The advertised movie at the theater turned out to be nothing. It was over, but Mom and Dad were apparently still happy for the Petrov's daughter. Adriana decided to watch some horror movie to get her nerves in order, to calm down after all that she heard from her surroundings regularly. The horror movie really helped. By that time, her parents had arrived home, not showing much curiosity about their daughter's news. Mom, Dad, you and I are all adults. She began her speech, especially you, said Mom in a characteristically pitiful tone. Not the point. Technology has come to the point where anyone can decipher their DNA and find blood relatives if they suddenly lose contact with them. I used such a service out of curiosity, and I have this result, said Adriana, and showed her parents a paper with incomprehensible numbers and letters. Her mother and father took a quick glance but didn't understand anything. It says here that my DNA is a 98.4% match to the Holmes family DNA. And I demand an explanation of how this happened, how I ended up in your hands. Why am I not with my family? She put the question to me. That doesn't make any sense. This is my belly that you crawled out of almost 40 years ago. It hasn't gone back in since. Here's your father, who was personally involved in the process with you, us, and your parents. What do these crooks do to make money? Yeah, to mess with people's minds. That's your news. I thought it would be more important, my mother said, and turned her nose up. And the father sat pensive. I wondered why she wasn't like any of us. And I'd never had any of my female relatives so unlucky in the sense of feminism. What if there really is a secret here? He turned to his wife. Oh, Benjamin, don't you start. She's just like you. She promises and doesn't deliver every time. It's only genes, nothing else. And these transcripts and all that. It's bullshit. I saw a program. They're making such a big deal out of it, said the mother. But the father wasn't going to back down. Look, she doesn't even look like us. You're a redhead, I'm a redhead, and this one has black hair. What do geneticists say about that? He's staring at his wife. So you're saying you want to charge me with assaulting your daughter? But yes, Benjamin, to live with you for almost half a century and hear you say that. You judge everyone by yourself. I'm sure you remembered your Nadenka, whom you dragged around for almost 5 years despite her marriage. Or remembered Sophia, whose husband almost cracked your skull open when he saw your poems about her. And also tell you or stare enough. Wife, so ancestors stop. I'm not telling you this news to get you all squabbling over jealousy and doubt. I thought we could think together about how this happened and find a reasonable explanation, said Adriana. That's what I'm saying. Mother, give us a coherent explanation of how this happened, said Benjamin, pulling a cob and a bottle out of the fridge. And you're back on your promise. What did you quit? Will you complain about your blood pressure again? Adriana's mother was indignant, but it was too late. The family has long been looking for a reason to clarify the relationship, but it was not found. And then the daughter threw up such a topic that now they only dream of peace. In their heated arguments and unions, they did not even notice how the daughter left for her place. When Adriana reached home, she saw several missed messages from the most mysterious man in her life for the past 4 years. This William is the son of influential parents, heir to the family business, perpetually bored life seeker, and just plain whiny beyond his years. Adriana has long been tired of watching his short videos of poor quality and endlessly reacting to them with horror, or laughing where it is not funny, or explaining simple things and receiving in response, yes cannot be. She dialed William's number. Hi, I can only talk to you for a short time. Why don't you read my messages? Is today a day off? You could have come over to my place. We could have chatted. As it is, I'm not in the mood. It's been ruined. William started complaining. My dear friend, I know why everyone's driving you crazy. If you wanted to solve this issue, it would have been out of your life a long time ago, Adriana said enthusiastically. You know what I've come to in my 45th year. It's not for nothing that rich people refuse to communicate with ordinary people. They just burden them with their problems. And I can't be so selective with people. It's not noble. That's not how my parents raised me. William didn't even hear Adriana, but continued his whining. Do you want to end this chaos in your life or not? Adriana asked. Well, it's understandable that everyone makes their own happiness. But when everyone chooses me as a shoulder to cry on, or a solution to their problems, it's so annoying that I don't even have the energy for anything else. Do you have any idea what's going on? I kept whining. William, how would you ideally like these same people to treat you differently or have other people around you? Adriana asked. Come on, you're still loading me up with your philosophy. I'm so disappointed in people today that I don't even have the energy to think more about them. Hear Adriana back. But okay, let's go the other way. William, you're 45. I'm 36. You and I are no longer young men. We've known each other a long time, and we've had what you might call a relatively smooth relationship. We can tolerate each other. And if you and I still get married, as a logical continuation of all this, you will have a chance to tell everyone that you married a terrible bitch who does not allow you to communicate with the usual circle of communication. And they'll stop asking for money because you'll have a good reason. You got a family to feed. How does that sound? Adriana asked. Oh, Adriana, I've been married twice before and failed each time. I'm disappointed in women. It's easier with you, though. You know how to negotiate with people. You're straightforward. But marriage is not something I'm ready for, William said. What's the reason? Let's figure it out. Adriana pressed. But you know my family, as heir to my father's business. I have to be in constant contact with them. I have to do my share. And if there's a new person in my life, I don't even want to think about that. Noel William. Hold on. Let me guess. You don't want a new man in your life because he'll claim his piece of your estate. Isn't that right? And you'd like to bequeath it all to your own. I figured that out a long time ago. But I thought you pointed out that not everything in this life is measured in money, and certainly not in my value system. So I'm not a threat to your favorite money. I'm a relatively safe option for you. Didn't you realize that? She asked. Oh, that's it, Adriana. I don't like to talk about these things at all. It's painful for me. Let's just drop it. When are you going to find time to just talk? William asked. Never now. William, do you see others as mercantile? Because you are. I don't care if you hear it now or not. Other than that, you're a wonderful person. I'm not just friends with you, I'm even happy to fight with you, and that you and I have had on more than one occasion. And every time, we've come out victorious. But that's all in the past. We will never see you again, and we will never talk again. Adriana said and hung up. If someone else was with her, she would have to be persuaded that she was overthinking herself, that she needed to learn to think positively, to think well of people and all that. But it's a good thing she doesn't have people like that around her. And Adriana is free to make any mistakes in her life, even the most fatal ones. Two intellectuals were sitting in a coffee shop making small talk. Yesterday, a new issue came out from the blogger Budia. One of the Holmes brothers was there. Said the first one. That's cool. I can imagine how interesting it was there. I'll have to check out the link for sure. Throw it to me, said the other one. Yeah, but I'm warning you, you're in for a disappointment. The crystal clear image of a noble family with the highest moral standards collapsed at 100 hours. I basically assumed that they were not without sin, because no man, especially with such influence and power in society, can be without sin. Everyone has their dark sides. It's just that these people were very skillful at hiding their demons. For a very long time, yesterday, their Jenny was out of the bottle. People breathed a sigh of relief because Akela had finally missed. Now they are closer to reality, said the first one. Just what was there in the first place? Interested asked the first young man in an expensive suit and glasses. There, in short, a scandal between the children of the oldest Holmes. A polygon had formed. On one side, son David; on the other side, daughter Kathy. On the third side of the first legal wife, the mother of these two, and of course, a young wife, model and actress Clara. Can't divide the family's assets between them. That's how this conversation got leaked. Today it was drowned by all news resources. They write that right after the release, the elder Holmes went to the hospital with a heart attack. That's also a sign that things aren't so clean over there. How have people been hoodwinked all their lives? Says the other one. And this could be part of their PR. He'll be in the hospital for a couple weeks, then he'll come out and his ratings will go up again. People will start listening to this family with renewed enthusiasm, forgetting about politicians and showmen. They got it all figured out, said the first one. Adriana felt uncomfortable listening to all this. She decided to save her ears from the garbage directed at the family, which was now, in all likelihood, no stranger to her. She paid for her coffee and cake, and as she passed the table of the two intellectuals, she said dismissively, "I believe they really are as they show themselves to the public. I feel them from the inside," she said and walked on. "You see how everybody's a fan of them. And there are 1 million of them in the country," said the first one thoughtfully. Since evening, a few very bright persons have not left the door of the hospital room. A young man in a strong jacket, two glamorous ladies who reluctantly exchange duty phrases with each other, and a beautiful woman of advanced years. Yesterday, they were told by the doctor that he would not allow them to see the head of the Liam Holmes family if they intended to have family conversations with him. The doctor left the office and the young man caught up with him in the corridor. "Noah, I'm sorry, but as a doctor, I am responsible for your father's health. If, God forbid, something happens to him, I will not be forgiven. Not only all of our contemporaries, but I won't be able to forgive myself. So please put your family disputes aside for later. Can you not wait here? I can't let you see your father yet," said the doctor. "Thank you for your concern, doctor. We really appreciate it. In fact, we wanted to apologize to him because there was no dispute between us about the inheritance, and spreading these rumors is just some kind of misunderstanding. Please give us a chance to see him for a few minutes." The stylishly dressed man asked. "Okay, just tonight. Right now, we've sedated him. Let him rest," while the doctor said, and closed his office door. In the evening, as the doctor had promised, all the relatives of Liam Holmes came into the room with a guilty look and apologized to the head of the family. He hesitated for a while and said, "I have told you before, and I will never tire of repeating it as long as I live. Watch your every word, watch your every action. The brilliant reputation of Holmes must not be tarnished. It is entirely in your hands. As for the inheritance, I have divided it equally for each of you. None of you will be poor after me. You won't have to work for the rest of your lives, and you'll have something to leave to your children, won't you? So curb your egos and be reasonable." "I hope so. It was the first and last scandal in our family's history," said Liam Holmes. The daughter, son, first wife and models promised that no more controversy would be allowed. When everyone's spirits had just lifted and Holmes, with peace of mind, decided to finally eat. For the last 3 days, there was a light knock on the door of the room, and then immediately from there appeared the head of an unfamiliar young woman. "Liam Holmes, can I see you for a moment?" the woman asked, and without waiting for permission, entered the room. "Excuse me, how did you get through security? Who are you?" Kathy's daughter was surprised. "It's not important. I have something important to tell you. My name is Adriana," said the girl and looked questioningly at Holmes. "We are listening to you. Speak." He nodded his head. "The thing is that the decoding of my DNA shows that I belong to your family. I would like to find out the truth for myself. Can you help me with that?" Adriana asked. She came closer and held out a piece of paper with the clinic's logo on it. "It's the truth." "Yes, I've heard of such scientific advances. Why did you think I might have something to do with your origins?" Liam asked. "I don't know. I just kind of went with my gut. Your brothers are unlikely." Adriana lost the thread of the conversation. "Liam, what kind of surprises are these? You promised me the other day that you were done scheming on the side. Do you want to erase my memory of our happiest years?" The first wife was indignant. "I just made it clear to all of you to keep your temper in check and your emotions under control. Whatever happens, it could be a provocation," said Liam Holmes. Studying the sheet carefully, Adriana had already regretted coming to this man 1,000 times. She had already been accused of provocation. She had lost the will to speak further. "I'm sorry, but I'm offended to hear you make unsubstantiated accusations. I read the public's opinion of you, and you seem like a very honorable man. I thought the truth might be of interest to you, but I guess I was wrong. I'm sorry again, but I won't bother you again," Adriana said, took the paper out of Holmes' hands and headed for the exit. "Wait, girl," said the man after her, and then turned to his relatives. "Are you free for today? I'll let you know if there's anything you need. In the meantime, go home and mind your own business. When the doctors leave, a driver will bring me," he said. The family members glanced at each other and, barely concealing their indignation, left the room. "Who was the woman who gave birth to you? How does she explain it?" asked Holmes. "My mom's name is Urina. She has worked as an accountant in various organizations all her life. I also have a father. His name is Benjamin, worked as an engineer. Now retired." "About your age," Adriana said. "What can I say, Adriana? In life, things happen. Does it matter how one feels about it and what steps one takes? Leave me your phone number and I'll try to remember past events. And when the doctor discharges me from here, I will try to contact you," the man said. Adriana left her phone number and said goodbye to the Lithuanian. She was walking home with absolutely no mood. Not only had she been treated like an adventurer, but this Holmes guy was looking at her so intently that she felt uncomfortable. She was going to turn off her phone as soon as she got into her apartment, draw a bath, and lie down with a glass of wine, despising the world for its injustice. But another surprise awaited her. Her mother was sitting in her driveway in a bad mood. "Mom, hi. What are you doing here? How long have you been sitting there?" asked Adriana. "An hour or two. I've been sitting here, waiting for my negligent daughter to come home. Can you congratulate me? Your jokes about jeans really got to your dad. He's been drinking every night since that day. I'm tired of being suspicious of him. He and I had a fight, and he showed me the door at my age. Ungrateful." Mother resented him. "Oh my God. You're supposed to be truthful and sober-minded. And you're like little children, turning everything into a scandal," said Adriana. "Adriana, daughter, are you serious now? You're scolding your father and me now. Didn't you ever think of something clever before you came to us with some dubious paper and made serious accusations?" Mother was outraged. "I have a right to know the truth, as far as I'm concerned," said Adriana. "Where's the guarantee that your transcript is correct? Maybe someone's doing it deliberately to cause a scandal. If you were told your genes were the same as Benjamin's, what then? You'd believe it too, and she'd come to me to confront me with the truth. Sometimes the truth can be very damaging to a close relationship. How do you know what a close relationship is? You've never been in one. And by the way, instead of thinking about it, you're just being silly." He told her mother off in the apartment, and Adriana felt sorry for her mom. It seems that her father really hurt her a lot. "That's okay. You'll make up soon. Dad can usually give in to you. In the meantime, you can stay with me. I need moral support. Although, of course, I have strange methods in this direction, said Adriana with regret. The mother did stay with her daughter for a long time. However, she did not miss the opportunity to scold her daughter for the adventure and every time remind her that she urgently needs to get married. Otherwise, she is already losing her mind in front of everyone for lack of a man in her life. In the end, Adriana, after a few days, began to think that she was really doing nonsense, and it was not worth digging further. This issue, come to think of it, just being in the wrong family and fate could have turned out differently. Is that really worth the trouble? Young lady, can I have your attention, please? I'm a newcomer to this town on company business. We make diamond jewelry. We want to open a chain of stores in your town. Oh, I'm rambling. Looking at you, I wanted to ask something delicate, said the strange man. When Adriana was leaving her driveway the next day to go to work, what did you want to ask? She mumbled. I'm still thinking about it. But just now, another thought came to my mind about my mission in this city. My boss told me to look for good locations for a jewelry store. What location would you recommend? Asked the man. Ludno. It's very simple, replied Adriana. What are the most prominent places in this city? Honestly, I probably look like an intrusive, rude type, but I really need information, said the young man. It's a strange approach altogether. Is this how to scale a business? Before making a decision, let your boss create a group of researchers on our city, and there it will be seen where and how. Adriana said. Would you mind having coffee with me? I've been here for almost a week, longing for human companionship, the stranger insisted. Adriana was mildly annoyed, but she was won over by the young man's simplicity. Why not practice her persuasive skills on such random interlocutors? At the same time, you could vent your emotions without hesitation on the offending party. Only 20 minutes, Adriana said. And now, they're sitting in a coffee shop, and the young man continues his strange conversation. To be honest, it's not the first time I've seen you. Last night I saw you coming out of a private clinic. I wanted to approach you, but you were in a bad mood. Is someone sick? I asked the young man. You could say so. I went to see my new relatives, and they are not happy, which is to be expected, said Adriana. But if you found out that you were an aristocrat by blood, but by some misunderstanding you were among ordinary people, how would you behave? Adriana asked. Naturally, I would try to reconnect with my roots. I've heard that this happens a lot. The cause and the human factor, or the intrigues of enemies. And people may not realize it for years, or the truth may be deliberately hidden from them. It happens a lot in noble families, the young man said. And you have a similar case, if I understand correctly. You might say so, but I don't want to restore relations with them. I'm just curious to know how it could have happened. Maybe there's some big mystery behind it. What if someone else is behind it besides me? And now he's suffering without knowing the truth. But I've been misunderstood. And supposedly my family has no interest in knowing the truth, Adriana said. Excuse me, but who are we talking about? Asked the young man. The family. Holmes, there are some very famous people in our country. Very famous people in the public eye. My DNA is 84% the same as theirs, said Adriana. After that, the young man suddenly had urgent business to attend to. He left his coffee, paid for himself, and without even saying goodbye, he stormed away. And Adriana was surprised. He himself insisted on company and ran away. And the young man hurried as quickly as possible to get away to a safe distance to report to his superiors. Once in the next block in his car, he dialed some number and told, I told you yesterday that Holmes was in trouble. A girl came into his room. Then she came out all emotional. I followed her, and today I was able to engage her in conversation. Anyway, she has direct family ties to them. She's got proof in her hand, and she looks just like them. I'll send you a recording of the conversation with her and her photo, he said. Great. I'll send you the whole story, said the editor. And another scoop was ready to hit the world. Meanwhile, the head of the Holmes family had no idea what was about to happen. Liam, All your vitals are normal. You'll be discharged tomorrow. But the rules are the same. No more worrying. You need to take care of yourself, the doctor said. Last night, much to Holmes' delight. So today he woke up in high spirits, as is typical of all normal people. Holmes' first thing he did was to check the news about himself on the news portals. The family drama is reaching a new level. Liam Holmes has an illegitimate daughter who also claims his inheritance. That was the first headline. The others copied from it, and the news was already being discussed online. Holmes felt sick again, but he gathered all his strength in a fist and decided to check out today, without waiting for his arrival home. He dialed the phone number of his young and ambitious wife Clara in the car. How come the whole world already knows about yesterday's dubious girl? How did this information get to the press? He asked. How do I know? It's probably your Cindy. I've always told you that she only pretends to have no grudges against you. In fact, she's always going behind your back to get back at you for not being able to keep you. Who else would be interested in that? Clara replied. Clara, I'm asking you one more time. Don't slander the mother of my children. I don't think she would stoop to such a level to take revenge on me through the press. She has the ability to speak directly to me about anything, Holmes said. And I don't understand. You suspect me of that. Liam, shame on you. How could you think that of me? I'm crushed by your attitude. You're accusing me out of nothing. And that's death to me. She cried. So it wasn't you. Then who is it? Is it my daughter, Kathy? Holmes wondered. It could very well be. Daughters are always jealous of their fathers. All the more reason for her to have a motive. It's solidarity with her mother. And plus, she hasn't gotten over her teenage traumas yet. She's 36 and still acting like a 16-year-old, always resenting you for not paying attention. It's a hole in a person's gut that lasts a lifetime. That hole sucks up everything, even your love and care for her, said Clara to Haley, not missing an opportunity to mess with Kathy. I'll talk to her too. Okay, I'll be home soon, he replied and ended the conversation. The family arguments didn't yield much. Holmes realized that the more he tried to get to the truth, the more lies and slander his relatives spewed at him. So he decided to go another way. By that time, Adriana was ready to burn the DNA transcript and write a heartbreaking post about it on social networks. Without naming names or characters, of course. But she kept putting the matter off until later. Now she sat in front of the mirror and looked at her collarbone mole with hatred, going over in her head the options of how to finally remove it and feel like everyone else. Then she got a phone call. Adriana, hi. Is this Liam Holmes? Recognize me? The voice asked. Hello. She didn't recognize me, but she was suddenly confused. I've been discharged from the hospital, but I remember there's an unresolved issue between us. Let's meet somewhere you like and discuss it. He suggested it in detail. What should we talk about? I think we understand each other. Do you rule out the possibility of other people having your genes? I understand that, Adriana said. But why such hasty conclusions? We're adults. We should realize that such news can knock anyone out of shape. Yes, and in a hospital bed, and in front of all family members. Please, make allowance for the human factor, said Holmes. Adriana thought for a moment. Okay, let's try to discuss it then, she agreed. What's your favorite restaurant? The man asked. Adriana thought again. A restaurant in her world is a place where one goes twice a year on holidays and is endlessly amazed by everything in it. And then at the end of the night, they are horrified by the prices. Then you work up the courage to pay the bill and convince yourself for a long time that you deserve it. And this person asks as if the rest of the world is as adept at picking out restaurants as they are at picking out a coffee shop or a fast food joint. I don't know, Adriana replied. Then let me invite you to the royal court. It's really exquisite there. The 18th century concept combined with utilitarian modernity is an unexpected sight. I'll send a driver to pick you up at 18 and he'll call you. I'll see you at the royal court at exactly 20:00, Holmes said and hung up. "Mom, my supposed father called and asked me to meet him at a restaurant. Don't you want to come? Maybe you'll remember something." Adriana asked her mother, "You're going to the same place as your father? Really? If I had a relationship with a man like that and had a daughter with him, I'd still be where I am. What do you think? Just try to imagine the situation. Wouldn't I claim his patronage?" The mother has put the matter in perspective, and I advise you not to go there. Unlikely to say that a good self-disgrace. Throw that paper away and forget the silly idea already, Mother said. The Holmes driver arrived at the appointed time, and a big man got out of the front seat of the car and opened the door for her. Adriana said hello to him, but he didn't even look in her direction. They were silent on the way, and Adriana took a moment to imagine her childhood in this family. "You're a little girl. You are insulted almost every day by the boys in your class, and after class a car with huge and serious uncles comes to pick you up in the morning, escort you all the way to class, terrifying the teachers and everyone else. Usually these kids grow up dreaming of riding the trolley or seeing the inside of a school bus." Adriana smiled, remembering her free childhood, when she had the right to beat up the boys herself. If she could stand in front of teachers, blush, and convince herself that she was going to act like a girl for the next week, she'd be in some crystal world. Holmes. She could only dream of such freedom. With her morals, she'd probably be homeschooled, where there's no living life. So we arrived at the Royal Court restaurant. Adriana greeted the staff with curtsies, but they were like medieval slaves, nodding silently and not making eye contact. Holmes sat at a table by the window, and Adriana was filled with irritation. When she meets this man, she loses the thread of conversation, stops thinking, and behaves like an obedient child. "Hello. Thank you for not refusing to meet me," said the waiter in an emphatically polite manner. "We'll have the menu and wine list." Holmes, it seems, immediately noticed that Adriana has problems with orientation in the dishes of this restaurant and in the wine list. "Adriana, let's drop all the masks and just sit as two people. I'll take your pick. Whatever your heart desires. Don't look at the price tag. I'll help you with the wine. I'll have a vegetable salad and a sparkling water." "I won't drink alcohol," she said. "Why so false modesty is nothing to it," said Holmes, and began for her to order some intricate dishes, and in addition wine 1,000 some magnate of the year. "I just know my norm and preferences," Adriana said quietly. Despite the table full of delicacies, she had no desire to violate her principles. One's norm and preferences are more expensive. Holmes talked about his difficult childhood, then his dynamic youth, his successes, their entitlement, his successes and failures, as is typical of many Holmes in any society, and the fox listened silently, looking for a connection between himself and his stories. And she was still gone. When Adriana realized that she felt like a student here, she decided to curtail the conversation. That's when Holmes' purpose became clear. "I have to tell you, it's an elaborate plot. You even look a little like my mother. But you should know that it's very common for people like me to try to hang their children. I've been through it many times, and now in my 70s, I was sure I was past all that Santa Barbara stuff. But it turns out it hasn't. It's just that before, potentially my kids were toddlers or teenagers. This is the first time I've had an adult daughter." And the fox inside was seething with anger. "I already understand your position. You don't need to repeat yourself several times. I just thought you might be curious about the truth," she said. "Well, let's say a truth seeker has two options. Either he finds a lie and is disappointed, or he finds the truth and then he has to do something about it. Let's say my daughter really is found somewhere on the side. What would change? Life history won't be rewritten. Usually these attempts are similar. I've come to understand them. Every child has the right to care and attention. So now it doesn't matter to me whether my child is looking for me or not. I just give each one a little bit of my attention," Holmes said. Then he pulled a weighty envelope from his jacket pocket. "There's enough here to provide some colorful experiences. Go on a trip Or you could even buy a used car. Well, or spend it on women's paraphernalia. Well, or spend it on women's whims. But that's all up to you, said Holmes, and moved the envelope closer. Instead of the truth you want to pay off. Adriana asked. Well, I told you that before my illegitimate children were easier, silently took the money. And with adults, it turns out, it's more complicated, smiled Holmes. I don't understand why the public idealizes you so much. I think it's a false image. Be healthy and take care of yourself, said Adriana and hurried to the exit, not pulling in an envelope. As soon as she was out the door, Holmes picked it up and put it back in his pocket, then turned to his bodyguard. You've seen how strange people have gotten. And the logic is not clear at all. Why would people call themselves my children if they don't need money? He said and laughed loudly. Kathy, hi, honey. We need to talk to you, Clara stated in a phone call. Hi, darling. I don't understand what kind of conversation there is between us, Kathy said. It's about my reputation. It's very important to me. And you have to listen to me, said Clara. How can there be a conversation about something you don't have? Either that or freebies and a reputation. Sounds paradoxical, grinned Kathy Lyam Holmes. Anyway, you need to stop telling the press about that girl who showed up, supposedly Lyam's daughter. He's thinking about you, but it's clear that jealousy is what's got you and your mother in a tizzy. I don't need to do anything nasty. Someone Lyam loves me enough and would never trade me for anyone else. It is you who must curb your emotions, Clara stated. Kathy took a deep exhale to contain her indignation. Hey, peasant, you didn't get anything mixed up in there. We've told you and we keep telling you. You're a bird in our family. Don't get your hopes up. The day will come and you'll go back to where you came from and what you're wearing. So it's practically starvation. If you don't want us to be a little humane to you that day, then hold your tongue and don't you dare call my mom, much less. Kathy replied, hanging up the phone. Kathy, it worked out perfectly. That fool got caught again. Everything is going according to plan, said Clara. She clapped her hands together and turned to her maid, who had been standing by her bed the whole time. Go ahead and dial. Now then, and say everything as I taught you, said Slaga. A couple of minutes later, Adriana was again receiving a call from the classified number. Adriana, good afternoon. This is a close relative of the Holmes family. We've heard about you. The grandparents are even excited and ready to meet you. Only it may not happen because the Holmes daughter Kathy Lyam has clearly become jealous. She's the one leaking to the press all new details about your relationship with your father and provokes a scandal. Be careful, she said. I'm sorry, but I have no interest in this family. Anything that happens between them is their internal affairs. Don't bother calling anymore, said Adriana and hung up the phone. She's a strange girl, but if you're going to do it, then go all the way. Don't give up at the first failure. In general, I do not understand such neither fish nor flesh. Clara was indignant. Excuse me, why do you need her? Why all this talk? Asked the servant. And God is my God, and it is necessary to explain everything on fingers. Lyam must exclude his first wife from the circle of heirs. Ideally also a daughter and a son I can somehow manage in the future. So the more nasty behavior from his wife and daughter to everyone else, the better, said Clara. The maid shook her head, then rolled her eyes so that it was unnoticeable, and then retired to the kitchen. And for Adriana, that call was the trigger. She felt humiliated and insulted. First, her father allegedly takes her for an adventurer and slits her money. Then his family tries in every way possible to drag her into their scandals. And all of them are sure that Adriana is sure to claim their place and their shares. About this, she dares to tell her boss. Jacob has always differed from the others in his ability to listen and be impartial about everything. You just want to get to the truth, and you're being prescribed non-existent goals and motivations. That's what offends you, he said. Yeah, that's exactly it. I expected the man to at least ask. To think, what if this could happen in principle? And what if, by the same principle, a stranger with completely different genes ended up among them? Wouldn't they be interested in such a truth? Said Adriana. Aha. Interesting theory. You're right. But for them to find such genes among their commoners is even more frightening than their genes among the commoners, said Jacob. Well, to hell with them. Jacob, I have another idea. I want to take out a loan and buy a car. How long can you go to the commoners? Honestly, said Adriana, embarrassed. It's not a problem. We will give you all the necessary documents for the bank. Only I thought buying an apartment was a priority for you. Jacob said. That's true, too. But at least start with a car now, she said. And if we are honest, is it really your desire? Or is it just that what is happening has hurt you so much that you feel worthless? Asked Jacob. More like the second. Yes, I felt worthless. What's to be ashamed of if it's true? I'm almost 40 soon. I'm broke. I live in a rented apartment. I haven't found my place in life, said Adriana. You'll get there, said Jacob. Don't give me that. Everything that didn't work out before 40 will definitely not work out after, said Adriana. What's wrong with turning 40? Is it wrong? Is it so ruthless? I didn't notice it when I was passing by, said Jacob. But the implication is that a huge amount of time and effort has been wasted, to no avail. Society encourages it. If you have everything by the time you're 30, said Adriana, I don't see what the rush is. You can have everything by 50, 60, and 70 if you don't give up. And what's the hurry? To the other world, Jacob said. After his words, Adriana felt calm and understanding, but not for long. Mason, who has her own business, witnessed the whole conversation. She decided to throw in her valuable nickel. You can certainly fight for your right to call yourself part of this family, as long as you have scientific proof in your hands. Why not? Everyone is entitled to a better life. Think of it as fate giving you a chance. It's a great opportunity. Everyone should seize the moment when they get the chance, but I would advise you to be realistic. They're not going to let you anywhere near this family. They have their own interests, and of course they'll protect them. That's their truth. Who needs an extra pretender to the verbal stream? Mason, what point are you trying to make? Adriana asked with irritation. I mean, you can fight, but I don't think you're gonna get anything. Everybody's got their own truth. And there's plenty of people like you, dreaming of jumping on the El Dorado ship. You're gonna have to make your way among them. Oh, Mason, please keep your wise thoughts to yourself. Adriana interrupted her. And that was the end of the conversation. Once again, when Adriana came home from work tired, her mother was not herself. We have to go. A neighbor called. She said her father got sick. He could barely knock on the neighbor's door. I would have left already. I couldn't figure out your transportation. The mother complained. But everybody went. So they did. Apparently, father never learned to take care of himself without your guidance, Adriana said on the way. Oh, of course, he can't do it alone. Men are like children, only bigger. They need a mentor to help them with everything. They need to be reminded of everything. They need to be reminded to lay the groundwork. That's what relationships are all about, the mother said. So it's a child, not a husband. I wouldn't want a husband like that, said Adriana. That's why you're going to spend the rest of your life cuckooing alone. She wants a knight, or a prince, or whatever you call them. Mother was outraged. Mother, believe me, I just want you to learn to live more peacefully, Adriana said. Her mother said nothing, but Adriana realized from the look in her eyes that she had no moral right to express her views on the subject of relationships, much less to teach, and it didn't matter that you were well-meaning. By the time they arrived, the neighbors had already managed to call an ambulance for Benjamin, and he was taken to the hospital. Adriana and her mother rushed there as soon as they arrived and knocked on the doctor's door. It's a tough case. Apparently, the man was under some acute stress, plus too much alcohol with his bouquet of illnesses. This approach to health is unforgivable. But we're gonna try to get him out. You can't visit him yet. He's getting the treatments he needs. He needs rest, the doctor said. Leaving the doctor's office, they sat down in the foyer and waited for the unknown. Mom had already called her older daughters, and they were on their way to the hospital to see their father. But Adriana received another unexpected call. It was William, whom she had already easily cut out of her life. "Hello, Adriana. It's been so long since we talked," he said into the phone. "How has it been so long?" "It's only been 2 weeks. And why does that surprise you so much? You used to remember me once every 6 months," said Adriana. "Don't hurt me, please. I'm in enough pain as it is. I'd like to see you right now." "Where are you?" he asked. Adriana thought that she had nothing to do until she had clarity with her father. Why not chat with her own critic once again? She gave the address of the hospital, and an hour later William was waiting for her in the courtyard. "You look so much better," he said first things first, "and I congratulate myself." "That's the first compliment from you," Adriana grinned. "I just drove by the house where you used to live when we first met," William said. "I don't know why. I too. When I pass by that house, I remember those days, and I'm madly in love with you, flying on the wings of happiness, with my naive dreams and hopes, all gone irretrievably," she said. William's face changed. "What do you mean, gone? What's your point? Is something wrong?" "I'm right here with you. Things can be the way they were dreamed. Only if we want it to," William said. And for the first time in a long time, he took her hand. "Did something happen to you? Did you have another fight with someone close to you?" Adriana asked, cautiously. "Enough time. I just missed you. You're all over the headlines on the internet. Whenever I see it, I think of our past." "Let's start over," William said. "What's changed?" Adriana was surprised. "I thought it over. Where else should we go when we are old enough to have known each other for a long time?" said William, and stroked her arm. "I think I've been in a conversation like this recently, only from the other side. Have it your way. Let's start over. I'm going to correct a little with family matters now. My dad will come to terms with my mom. Then I'll go back to my life, and we'll turn over a new leaf together," Adriana assured me. Having said the main thing, Adriana felt the desire to return to her parents. William's suggestion to go out and have a quick dinner with her mom was not supported. When Adriana returned to the hospital lobby, the sisters were already there. "All because of your bad jokes," Nurse Kelly said reproachfully. "You'd better get on with your life and stay out of other people's relationships and your parents." Christina echoed her. "Mom's desperate. Dad's in the hospital trying to do something. If they said that yes, they'd bought you from gypsies for a couple of kilos of potatoes, and those stole you from the family of an oligarch, you would feel better." Kelly was gaining momentum. "I just wanted to know the truth." Adriana justified herself. "No, darling, you've given yourself the illusion that you can jump into a fairy tale and run away from your life. It's all a product of your unsettled life. If you had simple human concerns like family, children, and a husband, you wouldn't be doing this kind of nonsense," Christina said. "So in the end, what did the Holmes say to you? Did they accept you into their family?" Kelly asked wryly. "Offered money and said they often wanted to hang their kids on them," said Adriana. "As it is. But then, of course, there was some sense in all this," said Christina. "But I didn't take the money," said Holmes. "Everything I thought about him. I left," said Adriana. Christina and Kelly grabbed their heads. "Mom, we told you that you spoiled her. She grew up not only selfish like yours, but a stuffed-up fool," Kelly said, through gloating and laughter, word for word. And while her father came to his senses, the sisters, among themselves, managed to quarrel to the ground. They were unanimous in their opinion that Adriana had ruined everything. The mother remained indifferent, but her dissatisfaction with Adriana's actions was evident on her face. "When Daddy comes to his senses, I'll apologize to him, Mom, and you forgive him. It's all my fault. I'll make up and move on, normally," she said, when tired of defending her simple desire to know the truth of the past years. "Easy for you to say. They lived for so many years, soul to soul, and then there was a doubt about the fidelity of Mom. It's a huge blow to a man's ego. But how can you know such subtleties if you haven't even been in a relationship with anyone? Christina went after Adriana one more time. Girls, stop fighting amongst yourselves. Try not to mention the subject in front of your father now, and I'll try to make him feel comfortable, the mother said. Toward midnight, the doctor said that Benjamin was better and that he could visit him for a while. His mother was the first to go to him. After a few minutes, she came out with shining eyes and said, "We have made up with him. We decided not to fight anymore and not to leave each other," Christina said. The daughters rejoiced. Kelly came next. She also came out happy and joyful. Then came Christina, who stayed a little longer than the others. And when she came out, she wiped her tears of happiness, hugged her older sister and mother. Adriana automatically went to the door of the room, but Christina stopped her. "Hey, mademoiselle, have you had enough surprises? Please, there's no need to disturb Daddy. If you go in to see him, he'll remember everything again, and he'll feel sick," Christina said, tugging on her sleeve. Adriana was confused, but her sister's mother is not Christina, right? "Adriana, you should stay out of your father's sight for now," her mother said. They then sweetly discussed tomorrow's plans and the upcoming family get-togethers. When her father would be discharged from the hospital, Adriana stayed by her side. The sisters decided to go with their mother to their parents' house. Adriana went to her own place. She wasn't asked to go together. Kathy Holmes is gathering her many friends at her country mansion today as usual. She has 2 small children being cared for by nannies. There is a husband who is in business. Thanks to the patronage of his wife's influential father, Kathy has one task in life: to be friends with all the celebrities and have fun. That's how it has been all her life, and that's how she intends to continue living. When the guests were drunk, one of her friends approached her and called her to the side. At first, there was a verbal argument between friends, and then everything turned into a loud argument. The guests curiously began to listen to what was going on and whispered among themselves, "Change," smiling at each other. "Kathy, Liam, how long can this last? You've been at it for almost a year. How are you leading us around by the nose? If you are not able to solve the issue, you should say so right now. We will have no claims to you. And to take every time decent sums of money for unsubstantiated promises, it doesn't color the person of your level." The middle-aged man, whom everyone knows as a representative of a well-known company, was indignant. "I don't understand, James. Do you have doubts about my influence? Have you forgotten that since my student days, I've been the one to get you out of trouble? They're the witnesses. How dare you embarrass me now in front of my guests?" Kathy was indignant in response. "Guys, you're scandalized, and publicly it's not good for either of you. This will all be on all the scoreboards tomorrow. Stop arguing, or retreat to a private space." Others tried to calm them down, but Kathy Liam was clearly on a roll. "You, James, were a nobody. When did you and I meet at the student desk? Thanks to me and our friendship, you were able to make a career out of being a pauper," says Kathy. "I'm not touching on our past together and our friendship, but I don't like the way you're setting up respectable people. I mean, they all know you as your father's daughter. You could damage his authority. All I need from you is just honesty. If for some reason you find it difficult to resolve their issue, just say so," James said, a man of solid years, who until then had been standing on the sidelines watching. He came closer and said, "James, you really don't need to stress anymore." To this woman's words and actions, it's clear by her words that she's being intentionally led around. She's not going to deal with us fairly. We absolutely do not work with such people. I suggest we end this unpleasant conversation. And you, Mrs. Holmes, give us our money back, and we will part peacefully." The man addressed Kathy. "Did I take money from you? Are you confused? Do you realize who you're making these claims against? Holmes's daughter can take money from anyone." Kathy grinned. James, who until then had kept his cool, became emotional. "How dare you lie so brazenly? You spend your whole life on your entertainment and wants to get money by promising to solve other people's problems. People, don't be silent. Tell me, who among you has never paid her to gain favor with an influential person or to get acquainted with him? Why do you all keep quiet? Just tell it like it is. This lady has already crossed all kinds of boundaries. Her father should know everything, he said, and Kathy was truly afraid of her father's wrath. As a man who valued his reputation, he knew how to inflict ruthless punishment on his children, suspension from the business, refusal to give out regular money, or even make them out of the country for a while. Friends stepped on Kathy's sore thumb. The crowd was still whispering, and some of them looked at the crowd to let them know they agreed with what James was saying. Kathy noticed that too. All of you who drink, eat, and party at my expense, you're all hypocrites. You've all always wanted something from me. I know your true colors. There's no gratitude from you, just betrayal. Right now, every one of you would love to put another knife in my back. But go ahead and do it. Don't be shy. Didn't I see what you're capable of? Screamed Kathy, while her husband led her away. The next morning, the tabloids were filled with a new sensation. The Holmes daughter was found to have defrauded big investors. She promised everyone the patronage of powerful people and then failed to deliver. Could it be that the Holmes family is losing its influence because of her daughter's dishonest behavior? They wrote. Liam Holmes himself was one of the first to find out. Her father was extremely angry with her when he dialed her number in the morning, and she was still awake and didn't realize what was going on. Who are you, such a maverick daughter? You're not the kind of student who needs to be pulled out of the clutches of criminal buddies. Didn't you promise that from now on, you would think before promising anything to anyone? My father resented you. Are you talking about these guys, Dad? Isn't that a lot of honor? Well, if you feel sorry for them, then by solving their problems. And the problem will be over, Kathy said in her sleep. Kathy, you're not hearing me. This is about your shenanigans. It's not about me. As long as you keep causing chaos, is your father or brother going to take after you to solve our family's problems? This behavior is totally unacceptable. You need to learn the rules. No one in our family, except you, behaves like this. If I were you, I'd be glad I was born into such a family. Praying to parents like your mother and me, and you still haven't gotten your mind right, shouted my father into the phone. But it's all right with you, Father. You've got another daughter on the horizon. You were all equal, and I'm the one you've got so unlucky. Good luck to you and Mom. May your peasant girl live up to all your hopes, she said and hung up. No, I won't let it go. She's the reason my ancestors are taking it out on me. You see, who are you like? Even parents betray their children. Kathy resented her friend. Later, when she'd had a good night's sleep, people like her get into anyone's soul and then pamper themselves. Poor sheep. I hate her. I want to punish her. Screaming Kathy. So you have the means to do it. Take it or leave it, said the friend. Indeed. What am I learning? Give me the number of this journalist with glasses. What's his name? Said Kathy, and got down to business. Tired of the family squabbles, Adriana decided to go headlong into her work, and her job is a demanding one. Selling cottages in vacation areas. She has a big deal planned for today. If it goes well, her boss Jacob has promised to give her a good commission so she can buy a car with cash instead of credit. So Adriana is very motivated today. The clients promise to arrive at the office early in the morning. Adriana is the earliest to arrive. The clock is ticking, but from the clients. The clock is ticking, but no word from the clients. Adriana started to worry. She dialed a phone number and decided to inquire Rick. This is Adriana from the construction company. You and I agreed yesterday to sign a contract for the purchase of one of our cottages. We are waiting for you in our office, she said. The client's answer dumbfounded her. Adriana. I'm sorry, but our boss rejected the deal just this morning. The reason, I think you know the reason. Our boss is very sensitive about partners. Thank you for your attention. "But we can't work with you anymore," said the client. "I don't understand what's wrong," Adriana asked, sincerely perplexed. And then, "Forgive me again if I ruin your day. There's a news story about you and a picture of you." "I'm sorry," the customer said again and hung up. Adriana read the news with trembling hands and was horrified. New sensations say that the alleged illegitimate daughter of Liam Holmes turned out to be a common fraudster, accustomed to making money by blackmail. And yes, plus, along with this news, pictures of Adriana are going viral. People are not stingy in the comments everywhere in the direction of Adriana flying curses. Demands to be punished to the fullest extent of the law, imprisoned for the rest of her life. Seeing the headline, Adriana's colleague, lawyer Oleg advised to sue the publication, but dissuaded Jacob. It is clear that the customer wants to do just that. The more Adriana reaches out to them, the more damage they can do to her. Several days passed in terrible agony. Adriana lost sleep, fell into apathy, practically stopped eating. Days passed unnoticed, as with William. She never once met after promising to start over. Along with her life, Adriana's job has also collapsed. Now none of her clients want to do business with her. The old ones just don't pick up. The new ones run away after a couple of days, so imperceptibly a whole month passed without a single deal. The last day, Adriana decided not to bother Jacob. She wrote a statement, attached to it a thank you letter for support, and just left. Jacob understood perfectly well her condition, so he did not bother her yet. Giving her time for her emotions, she would have suffered indefinitely. If it weren't for the doorbell ringing at an unexpected hour, Adriana had wanted to ignore it at first, but when her mom rang the phone and started banging on the door incessantly, she had to open it. Her parents didn't take any interest in her affairs. Judging from their mood, the relationship between them was particularly strained. Dad was sullen. Mom was disgruntled. Her daughter's languid attempts to cheer them up found no support. "Adriana, if you're gonna start this thing, let's finish it. Show me where your DNA transcripts are coming from. My dad and I want to go there too. What if your father's bloodline is William or a Rothschild?" Said your mother. "That's great. It's the best way to find out the truth. I'm glad you're right for it," said Adriana. Dad didn't seem thrilled with the idea, but Mom insisted. They need to find out the whole truth and set the record straight. So the people in sterile clothes came for the second time to get the biological samples and promised that tomorrow they could find out the whole background of their ancestors in a pure truth clinic. The family waited in silence for the next day. Late in the afternoon, Adriana decided to leave her parents alone and take a walk down the street. She had been spending so much time lately to achieve fatigue and fall into a sound sleep when an unfamiliar number rang on her phone. She stubbornly ignored it, mistaking the caller for William, but suddenly decided to answer for some reason. "Adriana, good evening. I apologize for calling at this late hour. You probably don't remember me. My name is Charles. We met in my office a couple of years ago, and then we lost touch," said a pleasant male voice. "Charles. No, I didn't forget. I just didn't know how to contact you. Really, I lost sight of you." Adriana rejoiced. "I apologize in advance if I'm being tactless, but you've been in the media lately. I thought maybe I could do something to help." "I'm guessing you're going through a difficult time in your life," Charles said. "Yes, you can really help me. I have a favor to ask of you. Do you agree?" Adriana asked. "I do. Before you make your request public, you can rely on me in any situation," said Charles. "Well, in this case, I ask you not to believe everything that is written there, and that may be written in the future. It was a careless move on my part, and the same my incorrigible character. A keen sense of justice itself. From all this I suffer very much," said Adriana. "I spent almost a year abroad. I miss my own, the simple walks, the city. Will you have time tomorrow to have dinner with me and then walk around the city at night?" Charles asked. Adriana did not refuse, as Charles was remembered from the beginning as one of the nicest people in her life. 3 to the clinic. It's true. They arrived in an anxious mood. It didn't take long for the girl at reception to look for a result. This is your result, Mrs. Sebastian. This is your result, Mrs. Sebastian. And this is your Benjamin Sebastian. We congratulate you. Your genes are 100% Sebastian, the girl said. So there are no admixtures and no Williamovs, Rothschilds, Khodorkovskys, the mother said. The girl smiled and replied, errors are excluded. There are no errors of the above-mentioned surnames in your blood, she said. Adriana waited for her parents to start making claims against each other again. However, neither of them was the first to initiate a scandal. They got into a cab and went straight to their home. The girl decided to take a walk in the park. She has plenty of time until the evening, and in the evening a pleasant meeting with Charles is waiting for her. Walking through the park, she saw a woman of advanced age. Adriana's attention was attracted by her austere outfit. The lady was dressed in all black and was holding a black fan and a black net veil. The lady was walking leisurely and as if looking out for someone. On the roadway, she stood for a few moments. Then she waved her hand to the coming cars, looked at them for a long time, and returned to the bench. Adriana pretended to look at her phone while she watched the lady unintentionally. I seem to be raising questions of curiosity. Feel free to ask, the lady said, turning to Adriana. Forgive me if you think so. I was just staring at your elegant attire. With admiration, of course, Adriana said. The lady sighed heavily and said, who would have thought grief could look so elegant? These are my mourning clothes. I wore it 25 years ago. On this day, my beloved husband and my 12-year-old daughter rushed to my airport to pick me up from vacation. But they didn't make it and got into a traffic accident on the way. At home, instead of a family dinner, my relatives were waiting for me to attend the funeral, the lady said. I sympathize with you, said Adriana. Thank you. From that day on, I decided that I will keep my loved one's memory alive. They support me in this. My daughter, my husband, and I used to walk in this park. And now, when I walk here alone, I see them passing me in our car and waving at me. I realize it's all a figment of my imagination, but it's at least a way to live, the lady said. And I'm someone's daughter too, but I don't know whose. The only thing that is clear is that you are not an unwanted daughter, said Adriana. The lady was interested in Adriana's story. When she told it, she listened with great interest and did not ridicule or condemn her. Like all the other people around her in Holmes, and for some reason when I saw you, I noticed a resemblance to Christina, and Holmes is the mother of Liam Holmes. She taught all her life at the Theatre Institute, and I studied there. And then I even worked there for a while. She was a prominent woman. She's almost 90 now, and still in good health and sanity. You should see her, if only as a mere curiosity. A lot of things might become clear to you then. I think, the lady said. I don't think there's any point, because the Holmes have made it clear to me that there's no room for strangers in their family, and I am a stranger to them. On top of that, they've gone on a bullying spree against me. I still haven't resolved the issues yet because of my curiosity. I just wanted to know the truth. They thought I was claiming their property, Adriana said. Kathy Holmes, meanwhile, arrived at her mother's country house. Mother, how could you let this upstart peasant girl cast a shadow over our family? She sobbed. What are you talking about? How could she affect us? She's a nobody, isn't she? Mother asked. Is that what you think? Does your father think differently? I think she does have something to do with our family, and father doesn't deny it, said Kathy. Do you have any proof? What makes you think that? How can the Holmes have 2 princesses when the throne is already occupied? Asked Mother. My father made it clear to me that I was a fool, that I didn't appreciate his services, that if he had another daughter, I would appreciate and pray for him. I see, for of whom we are speaking, said Kathy. I know with what words your father reprimanded you. I fully support him in this, because year after year you create bigger problems in our family. During your high school years, you beat up other girls and boys. We chalked it up to childhood. When you were a student, you were always in trouble with the law and with shady companies where your father was the only one who helped you out. You were pulled out of every country you could think of. You started your career as a cop. You colluded with your father's competitors, your mother said. Well, Mom, you remember that they all lured me by deceit into their net. That's enough. How many times can you reproach me with the mistakes of my youth? Kathy resented it. And when I got married, my father became a heartthrob. Because of your self-serving suitors, each of whom managed to serve half of the fortune your father gave you. All because you are an unworthy company. And they find you because you yourself are not much different from them, said the mother. I see what you mean. In an unfriendly family, it's always the younger daughter's fault, Kathy said. If you realize that, it's time to take the mind and start behaving like a mature, responsible person. And it's all to your benefit. Me and my father will not be. And this is his upstart. She'll get between you and David in no time and take every last fiber of your being. Is that what you need to grow up for? If we're being honest, why are you collecting money from everyone, promising the loyalty of authority figures? That's what you've been doing for so long. Your father turned a blind eye, your mother said. But this is normal practice in the circle of important people, tried to object Kathy. The circle of important people also varies. If you mean an adequate circle, then such behavior is unacceptable there. If you mean your dubious friends, then of course, all sorts of things can be invented. But the father is right about one thing. If you were a smarter daughter, you'd be making mountains with his influence and opportunities, Mom said. So you think so too. You're on his side too. Maybe I don't know something. Maybe this peasant girl is really your daughter, and I'm just a foundling for you. Or did you take me from an orphanage? Did Kathy cry? Do you want to act like a young child? You've been a mother of two for a long time yourself. Pull yourself together and return the money to the people you took it from. And apologize to your father if you don't want to lose his favor. And he's got a tough temper. You know that. If he decides to punish you, no amount of persuasion will work on him, Mother said. Oh no, anything. But for such rejection of his own daughter and betrayal, I will not ask his forgiveness, Kathy said. Then you make it worse for yourself. I don't know what you're so incomprehensible about. I, too, am extremely resentful of your behavior in life, said the mother. Kathy left without saying goodbye. But she had no intention of apologizing to her father or accepting her parents' terms. Adriana enjoyed the peace and quiet, going through the junk in her apartment. She didn't like this business. She usually called a service. But when you're unemployed for the second month, when you're being run by a personal condition again, it's time to save money and use therapeutic properties. General cleaning. She was so engrossed in the process that she didn't immediately hear the phone ringing. When she picked it up, she recognized the familiar, pleasant voice. Adriana. Hi, it's Lisa. We crossed paths in the park the other day. The woman said, I remember you. Good afternoon. Nice to hear from you, said Adriana sincerely. I have some important information for you, Adriana. Christina Holmes is having a gathering of her old friends at the restaurant this Saturday. I've dropped off the address for you. You can come with me, or you can come separately. But either way, you'll have a chance to see a woman you bear a striking resemblance to, Lisa said. I don't know if I should do it or not, Adriana thought. But you and I remember that your goal is to establish the truth, not wealth of influence or anything else, said Lisa. Yes, you are right about that. Then I guess I'll go with you, said Adriana. There was still plenty of time before Saturday, and Adriana lived her usual life. She has a new job interview every day, which she passes brilliantly. But at the end, she still gets rejected. The reason is clear. Kathy Holmes and his young wife, Clara, managed to use her in their feuds. The whole internet is full of articles and posts about Adriana Smith being a fraud. When she told Charles the story, he was the only person who wasn't horrified by the whole thing. He just laughed. Yeah, It's very hard for anyone who doesn't understand the rules of the game of our times to understand your question. But what's the bottom line? How did you end up in a family of strangers with such genes? He asked. That's exactly what I wanted to find out. To leave my parents or run to a stranger's family. It wasn't in my plans. I thought my loved ones might be interested to know the truth too. Or maybe there are more stories out there, Adriana said. Exactly. Usually these things happen either through the silence of a small circle of people or through human negligence. But it's too big an act to leave unchecked, he said. I don't know. In any case, I've ruined my life for good, though it wasn't organized anyway. And what's there to worry about? Adriana said, funny and a little resentful of fate and people. But all of that is easily remedied. You believe what I say, said Charles. You're the only one I believe, actually. I've never met anyone like you, said Adriana. And unbeknownst to Charles, she dropped the call from William, who still believed that they had a fresh start, and Adriana would someday find time for their rare and uninteresting meetings. Meanwhile, Liam Holmes was talking to his assistant. What do you think about this girl who's supposedly related to our family? Somehow she doesn't strike me as the sleazeball we're used to seeing. Somehow I can't get over talking to her, Holmes said. I've seen her picture and video online. I follow her social media. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I really am. But she, with her personality and thinking style, reminds me of you in her own way. Principled, proud, doesn't put anyone in authority, thinks independently. An interesting personality, all in all, said the assistant. But what could she possibly have to do with us? I've had affairs in my youth, of course. But I know my children by sight, said Holmes. Or maybe your wife has some secrets. Forgive me if I had the flu, said the assistant. If she had a secret, I'd know. Although, how could I know if I ended up abroad at the birth of all my 3 children? Holmes reflected. The meeting of old friends in the restaurant at Christina's invitation was organized at the highest level. The crowd was a match for her. The woman herself was indeed as Lisa had described her. A statuesque woman, wearing moderate makeup, talking elegantly, not hurriedly, emphasizing every word. This is what women who are happy with their age and position in society look like. With Lisa, she greeted very warmly. They stood in an embrace for a long time. Christina expressed to her younger friend her reverence and admiration for her resilience. She also mentioned in passing that it was possible to put away the mourning and face life when she saw a young woman she did not know standing next to Lisa. Christina first cast a quick glance at her, then looked at her again and held her gaze. Adriana looked embarrassed. Hello. I've heard a lot about you. Please accept my respects, she said in a low voice. She nodded her head and went to greet the other guests. I should have come here, and she disliked me, said Adriana, after sitting down at the table. You'll never understand your true attitude. It's too early to draw conclusions from the faces of such people, said Lisa. Meanwhile, the guests settled down and began to get acquainted. And this lovely lady would turn out to be from the Holmes family. Same nose, same eyes. Even the turn of her head is familiar. Suddenly, another older woman said. Adriana was even more embarrassed. I'm just keeping my aunt company. Reached out, Adriana sent to Lisa. This is my new friend. She and I recently met by chance. She made an impression on me. I promised her I'd show her our venerable Christina, said Lisa. Do you mind? In the form of herself, naturally, she whispered to Adriana. A little more time passed. New people came in. Ah, what a lovely girl. I suppose this is the daughter of Liam, whom we nursed back in the day with the whole ward, said another elderly woman suddenly. Liam's daughter is a bit different from her father, and this is our guest. Christina answered briefly, and once again looked at Adriana carefully. When everyone was seated, Christina approached each of her guests and expressed her gratitude for their attention. Then she chose an empty seat and sat directly opposite Adriana. A couple minutes later, the older woman almost choked on a piece of cheese when Adriana noticed a detail. Christina had the same mole on her collarbone that Adriana had been struggling with all this time, and in the end never made it to the clinic, like it was a sign of fate that the mole would stay with her forever. "She has a mole just like mine. Look at her collarbone," whispered Adriana to Lisa. She saw it and nodded. Now Adriana was determined. Now she felt the warmth coming from Christina, so as not to spoil the party. Adriana decided to wait until the end of the evening. Meanwhile, Clara once again complained about Kathy's antics to her husband. "Liam, I understand that she is your only daughter, but she sometimes goes out of bounds when she slanders me in the press or spreads rumors about me on purpose. You need to talk to her." That's what she said. "Exactly. She's the only daughter. There'd be another daughter. Maybe she wouldn't have grown up so selfish," he said thoughtfully. Clara rejoiced. "That's a wonderful idea. Let's have a daughter." "You'll have 2 daughters," she said. Liam did not answer her, but went back to his thoughts. When all the guests had left, Adriana approached Christina and told her story. To her great surprise, she was very calm. "I heard about you and the bullying too. What can you do? Those are the rules of public life. I'd like to warn you against disappointment. Even if I admit it, even if you have hard facts with evidence in your hands, it's unlikely that you'll be able to enter this family. You can keep in touch with me. My granddaughter came out of the wrong side of the tracks. She doesn't even visit me," she said, "so I don't claim to be part of your family. I just wanted to get to the bottom of it. Maybe I'm not the only one in the world. Maybe a lot of other people didn't grow up in the same family, like you or Aunt Lisa," said Adriana. "Anything could be. But I remember very well the month of May 2015 my Liam was away. His wife has no mother of her own. She and I were like mother and daughter. She called me and informed me that she had gone to give birth. I immediately arrived at the maternity hospital, where the doctors were already waiting for her. The labor was hard, and she had one foot in that world for 4 days and 4 o'clock. I was told it was a girl. Later they put her in my hands to look at her. It was a wrinkled curl. I don't remember anything else. It took me until 2 o'clock to nurse my granddaughter. Then I called in a couple of interns who were on duty that night, paid them, and instructed them to take good care of my granddaughter. That was it. Then the woman in labor came to her senses and began to gradually feed the girl. I don't know anything else," said Christina. "And this must be maternity hospital number 205? Adriana asked. "Yes, she gave birth to her daughter there," said Christina. For Adriana, this information was enough. Her eyes lit up, or even the brilliant ideas that had been on the surface for so long, but never reached her emotionally clogged brain. She said a quick goodbye to the older woman and hurried on her way. A basement room with no windows or doors. A metal door with an archive sign hanging on it. A woman in a white coat led the two into this no one interesting room the size of a library, and left alone. "You have to search by date. It's all written there. You'll figure it out when you're done, and you'll leave without being seen. Not everyone is allowed access here," said the woman and left the room. A few minutes later, Adriana and Charles found a 36-year-old video camera footage. The 24 o'clock video had to be rewatched all day until Adriana recognized her mother. In the tape and Holmes' wife in the next room. Everything was going along until the night of the video. As soon as the clock struck 1 o'clock in the morning, the young interns had a feast, but it didn't last long. Everything around them began to shake. It was clear that there had been an earthquake. The young doctors abandoned their table, ran to the room with the babies, and each of them grabbed 2 or 3 babies in their hands to be ready to evacuate the building if necessary. But the danger passed. A few minutes later, the medics returned to the room and placed the babies in a different order than they had originally been. Adriana almost fainted at what she saw. The 24 infants were out of place. After making a copy of the tape, she and Charles thanked the attendant again for her help and sat down in the car for coffee. "Do you have any idea how many more 24 there are like me?" Adriana said and laughed. "Yeah, and no one has a clue." "I wish I had time to get a transcript before I leave too," said Charles. "You know, I wouldn't advise it," said Adriana, and they both laughed. Liam Holmes instructed an assistant to look at the transcript that had been sent to his office. The assistant looked it over and showed it to the boss. The latter watched in silence. "Wow, so my daughter isn't really my daughter, and that strange girl is still my daughter. Is that so?" he asked. "That's what it looks like. The following footage shows women being handed children that aren't theirs, and none of them realize it." That's what the assistant said. "What can I say? We should call Adriana and finally get to know each other properly, like real parents with their children," Holmes said, and started dialing her number. But he heard back that the caller was out of range. At the same minute, the same number was dialed by Benjamin and his wife, who had just watched the video and were still reeling from the shock. "I don't get it. The operator says she is out of range. Where could she have gone?" he wondered. Sisters Betty and Christina also watched the footage. For Kathy, what she saw was a real shock, and her mother had already arrived at her husband's office and demanded that he find Adriana immediately. The search was fruitless. Toward evening, Holmes' assistant knocked on the door of the apartment Adriana had rented for the past 2 years. It was opened by a middle-aged woman who was surrounded by 2 young men signing a document. In response to the assistant's question, the woman said that Adriana had vacated the apartment because she was moving to another country. Meanwhile, Adriana and Charles had successfully landed in a new country, where a new happy life together was waiting for them, and no indifferent people around them.